Good evening to you all, and welcome to a slightly later edition of On the Sofa. We're looking forward to speaking with Ronnie Howell very shortly, and I hope you've all recovered from Saturday. I don't know if I have yet, but without further ado, let's get Vic on. Good evening, Vic.
No, I haven't. I certainly haven't recovered. But anyway, that's another story. We should say good luck to Alex Pike, who's left the Swindon Town Academy today. He's done a magnificent job, and we should wish him well in his future endeavours. He really has been a superb head of academy for the last couple of years. So good luck, Alex, and we wish you all the very best.
Very much so. Yes, good. Okay, without further ado, let's bring Ronnie on. Ronnie, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
From Cuffley. And I will leave you in Vic's capable hands, and I'll see you later.
Thanks very much indeed, Andy. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Howell. I'm really looking forward to this because you've got lots of stories to tell us. And people from Tooting and Mitcham will be tuning in tonight. I don't really want to say those words because it hurts too much, but we'll get to that a little later on. An extraordinary career, really, in terms of football and the managers you've played for. We'll get to those a little later, but it all started for you at Tottenham Hotspur, didn't it?
As a kid, yes. As a kid, I was there at 15, and I didn't get on with Eddie Bailey. I got on with Bill Nicholson because he was a lovely man, but I didn't get on with Eddie Bailey. And I was supposed to sign YTS, but they offered me an amateur form, and I said no. And I went to Millwall 3 weeks later, and I signed Apprentice Pro at 15, just over, and I signed Pro at Millwall at 17 on my birthday.
How was the difference then between Tottenham, White Hart Lane, then Coldblow Lane? What was the difference?
Yeah, but to be honest, I had the greatest years of my life there at Coldblow Lane. We used to play 3-a-side in the toilets, one end one toilet and one end the other toilet. It was unbelievable. And Barry Kitchener, who died a few years ago, he was a legend. And me and Barry used to play in the same team, and like it was brilliant. And then I used to go to New Cross Dogs afterwards in the afternoon. So I loved it at Millwall. I was there 5-6 years, and it was a great club. Absolutely. I know people say that they don't like West Ham and things like that, but Millwall supporters are really, really on your side, literally.
Well, you got your first goal from a professional goal there, didn't you?
Yes. And it was against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup.
Yeah. Take us through that if you can remember it.
Yeah, I was about 25 yards out. I hit it on the volley, and Jim Platts, the Irish international keeper, hit the stanchion, and then it come down, and Keith Weller and Derek Posse jumped on me. I went to the wall, stood on the wall, and they ripped me shirt and me shorts off, and all I had was a little teeny jock strap. So they just pulled me into the crowd. It was unbelievable. And Benny Fenton dropped me for the next game, and it was against Leicester City, who was in the first division then. So no, but I had some great times there.
What's it like then? Because as a boy, you've been playing in the background, playing in whatever it is, a road, a street, a garden, whatever. And then you score a professional goal. What is that moment like?
It's the greatest moment in the world. It was, because there was about 18,000 there, and I just ran straight to the wall because I used to like Dennis Law when I was playing, and I used to put one finger up, and I stood on the wall with one finger up each, and then they just pulled me over and everything went off, shirt, shorts. I was lucky because someone ran in the dressing room, got a pair of shorts and another shirt. But
because if you take your shirt off these days, you get booked, don't you?
I know, you get booked. That's what I'm saying. You're right.
Yeah. What about growing up? Because it wasn't easy, I don't think, was it, as a kid?
No, I got 2 or 3 free transfers. I went to Cambridge for a year with Bill Levers, another good manager, but I was only there 6 months. And then I went to Kettering with Ron Atkinson and Big Ron.
Now this is the first of the big name managers. I know Bill Lever's got Cambridge. He was the manager when Cambridge went into the league, if I remember right.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I signed the following year when they went into the league. Yeah. In the 4th division, yeah.
Now, this is like Ron Atkinson, the first of the big name managers that you play for. What was life like under Big Ron?
I don't know how to say this, but me and Ron clashed because I used to say to him, "Here, you've got no hair on the top of your head," and he used to pull them all over the strings like and looking all his gold on in the mirror, and I just used to like take the mick out of him, and then we had a row. And I left because we just didn't get on. And I was traveling because I don't drive. I've never drove. And I was traveling from like London to Kettering to play. And then I had to come back on the last train back to London. And it didn't suit me, really. It was a long, and I had to go on a Thursday night and train. So I was Kettering Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. And it took too much out of me. And that was when Dave Mackay, I left Kettering and Dave said to me, "Come to Swindon, Ron, have a trial." And I had a trial and he signed me.
Did you know Dave Mackay from your Tottenham days? Were you
only vaguely? Yeah. Only vaguely. I knew him. I knew him from the Tottenham days, but only to say hello to, because I was a kid when I was only like 12, 13 when the double side was playing. I was at White Hart Lane the day John White died.
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
I do, yeah.
I was in there having something to eat because me and Dickie Plume, we used to have meals at the pub on the corner, and Chalky White come in and said, "Where's Jonesy?" He nicked his trousers. And then Jonesy come out from behind the curtain and he went, "Here you are, Chalky." And John White took his trousers. And then when I got home from school, my mum said, "John White's been struck by lightning." And he died at Whitewebb's golf course, which is about 5 or 6 miles away.
Yes, I remember that very well. I mean, he was a really good player, wasn't he?
He was a great player, John White. He called him the Ghost. He was unbelievable. And then Dave signed me for Swindon, and I enjoyed Swindon. I think I played, was it 22 games, I think, and in that year, and I think I scored 6 goals. I'm not sure. I've got it in my scrapbook somewhere.
Well, he's played 22 matches and 3 as subs, so we'll give you 25.
Oh, all right. I've got 20. Right.
And your first goal, was it against
25.
Hull? Yeah. First game was against Hull. But let's get into that signing then, because you're asked to come along and try. Now, this is a time when those of us who are old enough remember we had the glory days at Wembley, the Anglo-Italian Cup, all that kind of thing. And things were starting to change at Swindon, weren't they? You know, that fabulous team of 1969 was beginning to break up. So what were your thoughts when you first got to the county ground?
The first thoughts was I looked at it and I thought it was.
Hang on, sorry, that's my phone going off. But carry on. It's not the background music; it's my phone. So don't worry about
it. No, when Dave took me there, Dave always liked me, and when we used to have 5-a-sides in the gym, he always used to pick me. And to be honest, Dave was a legend, unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, like I would have run through a brick wall for him. But being a midfield player, he used to like to pick me. We always played with each other in the 5-a-sides. But I really liked Swindon, and I bought my first ever bungalow. I never bought a place before that, and that was my first home. And it was a 2-bedroom bungalow in Stratton St Margaret. So, but the players there, they was all good. Rod Thomas, Steve Peplow, Roger Smart, John Trollope, Peter Downsborough, lovely fella, absolute diamond.
Yeah,
Peter was.
liked his pigeons, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. Is he still alive?
Sadly not. No. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very much so, because those of us who remember watching them as young men, it's very sad, really. We had a bit of a reunion of the '69 League Cup team back in March, actually, at the county ground, and it's a dwindling number. Let's put it like that.
It's dwindling.
Yeah.
And
but
then,
John, go on.
And then after Swindon, I went to Brighton, and I had another great manager, but not as great as the one after. I went to Brighton, and Pat Saywood. Oh, he looked like James Bond. He was handsome. He had a blue thing on, and I looked at him and I thought, I'll sign, and I signed for Brighton. And 3 months later, Cloughie come.
Yes. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But I mean, obviously, Swindon were going through a few changes, and it wasn't a great time on the field, was it? The following season, I think 73, 74, we went down. Dave Mackay decided to up ship and go to Nottingham Forest.
That's
didn't
right.
He? So when he left, what were your thoughts then?
I was gutted he left, but I got on all right with Les Allen while I was there. Les was similar to Dave, really. He was a nice man, good talker, and I enjoyed it at Swindon. I really did. And if I had the chance again, I wish I'd have signed when I was younger.
We'll sign you now, actually, the way things. I mean, your son was born in Swindon, wasn't he?
Pardon? Yes, Greg.
Yeah.
He was the hospital in Swindon. He was born, and I can't remember the name of it now.
Princess Margaret.
That's it, Princess Margaret. Yeah. My daughter nodding yes, yeah. And no, but I did love Swindon, and I used to get friendly with the girls who used to walk along with the flagpoles. Do you remember them years ago?
The town girls, yes, indeed.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
I used to chat them and have a laugh with them. Like I used to throw the old things up in the air, but it was unbelievable.
Because you used to go to the Dogs with Rod Thomas, didn't you?
Yes, me, Rod Thomas, and Steve Peplow, and we used to go to Cheltenham. We always went to Cheltenham. You know, when Cheltenham was on, the three of us always went to Cheltenham. And Rod was a lovely player and a lovely man. He was a gentleman.
What did you think of the likes of Rod and Don Rogers and John Trollope and Peter Noble, of course, who was magnificent? Roger Smart, you've mentioned. I mean, they're quality players, weren't they?
They was different class. Peter Noble was unbelievable. He was only little, but was he brave? And Roger Smart played alongside me, and Roger was a good player. He never give it away, and it was a pleasure to play with him. But as I said to you before, when Don Rogers was on the wing, I just used to give him the ball, and he used to drop his shoulder, and he was gone. So it was easy for me, really easy. But I did enjoy it there.
I've always said about Don that he didn't run, he glided.
Yes, he went past people so easy. In training, you couldn't get near him in training because he'll drop his shoulder and he'd be gone. And he was unbelievable. His balance, Rod Thomas used to say, I'll mark him out of the game. I said, better you, Rod, than me, because I couldn't.
I mean, what would you think players like that would be like on pitches of today? Because the county ground at the minute looks magnificent. I mean, in those days, it looked like a mud heap after all.
It was a mud heap, yeah. Swindon, county ground was mud all over. But now it's like playing on a billiard pitch. And me, I love playing on a nice pitch. And when I finished out of the Football League, I went to Enfield Town and their pitch was beautiful. And I finished up playing there for 2 years, and we got to the 4th round of the FA Cup. I got to the 4th round with 2 non-league clubs, one Tooting and one Enfield.
Yes.
At the end of my career. So
yeah, we'll get to. Don't worry, we will get to Tooting and Mitcham because we'll have to, I suppose. For those of us who were there and remember it. So what happened at the end at Swindon then? Because you were there for 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
The second of which, sadly, they got relegated to the 3rd division.
That's right.
What happened? Yeah, go on.
I got a free transfer, and Brighton came in, and it was Pat Saywood, and he signed me, but Pat was only there 3 months, and then Cloughie came with Peter Taylor, and it was unbelievable playing for him. I nutmegged him in training once, and he got the ball and sent me in. He took the ball up and sent me in. But the stories I've got with Cloughie was unbelievable. I was training on the Thursday, and we was playing Charlton on the Saturday. So he said, "Oi, son." I said, "Yes, boss." He said, "You can go home and see your bands, my daughter and my son." He said, "And see the missus." He said, "I'll see you at Charlton's ground, 2 o'clock on Saturday." He said, "You can go and see the family." He said, "You've not been home." So I went home, see the family. So when we got to Charlton on the Saturday, about 1:30, my wife and my 2 children was with me. And Theo Foley, who was the manager then, he said, "Hello, Halsey." So I said, "Hello, Theo," because I used to play against Theo when I was at Millwall, and he was at Charlton, Theo was. He was Irish, wasn't he, Theo Foley? He was Donnell's number 2. So he said, "We'll bury you today." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "We ain't doing very well. We're 6 from bottom." So anyway, the game went on, and I went, after 10 minutes, bang, edge of the box, crash, 1 in. Then I come in, scored a header, 2-0. So we was 2-0 up at half time, and 20 minutes into the second half, we got a penalty. And Peter O'Sullivan was going to take the penalty, but Cloughie jumped out of the box and he said, "Ron, you take it." So I put it on the spot, buried it. So I got a hat-trick. So run back. Peter O'Sullivan got the 4th. We beat them 4-0. So after the game, Cloughie said to Peter Taylor, "There's £10. Go and get Halsey the ball." So Peter Taylor went in to give £10 to Theo, and Theo said, "He ain't getting the ball over my dead body." That's what he said. How about that? And it was my first ever hat trick. Anyway, I come out. So Cloughie said to me, he wouldn't give you the ball. So I said, "No." I said, "Bit silly, isn't it?" But because I suppose I might have been a little bit leery. And he ain't getting the ball. So then Cloughie says to me, "You say one word to the press, I'll do you 2 weeks' wages." So I said, "Yeah, all right." So me and Peter O'Sullivan, we come out of the dressing room at Charlton, walked along, and Jack Steagles at the Daily Mirror, I remember him still now, the man, and he said, "Ron, your first ever hat trick." I went, "No comment." Cloughie done me 2 weeks' wages.
What, for saying no comment?
My wife went absolutely ballistic. She went absolutely ballistic. Truth. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I'll tell everybody the story and they can't believe it. But that's the type of man he was, truthfully. And he said 2 weeks' money. And my wife went absolutely ballistic.
Yeah, because let's be honest, in those days, you're not talking about, 300 and 400,000 like they're getting there.
I know. £40 a week I was on, £10 win bonus and £5 a draw. So it's not a fortune, is it?
Not really. And we should say that the Peter O'Sullivan you've mentioned isn't the racing commentator, Peter O'Sullivan, is
No, it's not that one. No, it's Peter O'Sullivan, and he was a left winger. He played for Wales. Good player, little fella, but very good player. Same like Don, but not as good as Don he was.
Where would you put Don Rogers then? I mean, in all the players you've played with, where would you put him?
Don Rogers was the number one. Absolutely. I think Don was the nearest thing to George Best. He was that good, Don, because as you say, he used to glide past people, and his swerve, you couldn't get the ball off of him. And he even done well when he went to Palace.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
he done well when he went to Palace. But do you remember Tommy Jenkins?
I do remember Tommy Jenkins. Yes, very much so.
Tommy come from Southampton. He had loads of ability, Tommy, when I played with him. So it's unbelievable, isn't it?
One thing I've got to mention to you is it's the early 70s. We all had long hair. You had decent hair as well, didn't you?
I had long hair then, yeah. I know. And if you look at what one is it, Kim? My profile at Swindon, I had it down there, right the way down on my shoulders.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Just I'll see what I can do here. Hang on, just I don't know if you'll be able to see this. If I can find it. It's a lovely picture. You should be proud of it. That's all I can say. It's a minute. Bear with me a minute. There we are. About that. Can you see that?
That's the one. Kimmy, my daughter's got that one.
Yeah.
That is the Swindon Town one. I don't look that much older now.
No, you don't. Absolutely right. Yeah. Steve says some great names cropping up. What was playing with Terry Hubbard like? Because he was around about in those days, wasn't he, Terry Hubbard?
Terry Hubbard, yeah. Little fella, good player, midfield, up and down, never stopped working, always with you when you was in a bit of trouble. He'd make them tackles, and he was a good player. What's the centre half? He was a good player. Frank Burrows.
Frank Burrows, yeah.
Yes.
Stan Harlan, was he around? Because he left when Dave Mackay was manager, Stan Harlan.
Yeah, he went, didn't he? Yeah. But it was Frank Burrows and Joe Butler.
Joe Butler, yeah, he's still around. Yeah, still around.
Another one who played at the back. And me, Roger Smart, was in midfield. So, no, they was all quality players, and it was a pleasure to play with them.
Ron Potter, I think, was the other centre half, wasn't he, in those days? Remember Ron Potter? Do you remember Ron?
Yes, he's in the photo there.
Yeah,
that my daughter's got. Yeah, he was tall, slim boy, but a good player, Ron.
And more hair, I've got to say. There was a lot of there's a lot going on. What was it like when the Cloughie one was a weird one because he didn't stay at Brighton long, did he?
No,
what was it like when he walked in the door? What was it like when he came in first of all? When you went, gosh, Brian Clough.
Well, I got on the wrong side of him because he come the first day he come. We was in the Grand Hotel on the seafront, and Mike Bamber, the chairman, who was a multi-millionaire, and he sat down and I got off the wrong boots with him. He said to me, "Who are you?" I said, "Who am I?" I said, "I'm Ronnie Howell." I said, "Midfield and I can play." And he went, "Oh," he went. And Peter Taylor laughed. But he asked every player what their position was and where they played. So I got off on the wrong start with him. But he, to be honest, he was a great manager, Cloughie. And Barry Bridges and me, we was in the toilet one day. He come in with a big cigar, biggest cigar you've ever seen. And he was smoking it. And I looked at Barry Bridges and I said, "Barry, he shouldn't be smoking in the dressing room." So Barry went, "No, I know that, Ron." He said, "But you tell him." So I said, "You shouldn't be smoking a cigar in the dressing room." And his exact words was, "I'm the manager. You're just a player." And he turned round and he spuffed it and blew it in my face.
Oh dear.
And he walked out. That was the character of the man. And Barry Bridges and me, we had a good laugh over it. But he had international players there, and he was a strange man because if a centre forward took a corner, he'd get out of the box and shout out, "Oi, I'm not paying you to take corners. Get in the box. That's what I'm paying you for." And he used to dip people out all the time. But he was never there. He come one day a week. He come on a Thursday, got drunk on a Friday, and then done the team talk on a Saturday, and then went back to Nottingham on the Saturday night. So he was never there. He left it all to do with John Sheringham. John Sheringham was his coach, and he done all the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Cloughie just turned up Thursday afternoon.
Another name that's been mentioned to me is Ray Bunkle, because I think if you made your Swindon debut when you came on and replaced Ray Bunkle, I think at Bristol Rovers, Ray, of course, no longer with us either. But
no, Ray was born in Edmonton. There was Ray Evans and me. We was all Tottenham and Edmonton boys. And Ray was a lovely fella, but he died early, didn't he?
Mm.
He did die early, didn't he, Ray? Because I left and then I kept in touch, spoke to him and his family and Ray Evans. And then all of a sudden, he died, didn't he?
Yeah,
he died very young, really.
Yeah. I think we signed him from Colchester, or did he go to Colchester? Can't remember off the top of my head.
I think he went to Colchester.
He went to Colchester, that's right. Yeah. So you're released by Brighton. And how does that work? I mean, does somebody come in and say, sorry, but that's the end of your time? What happens?
It was a very strange thing because Peter Taylor, who I used to go to the races with, he said to me, Cloughie's let you go. He said, I wouldn't have let you go. So I just said, but that is another one. I played 26 games there and scored six goals from midfield. So, but Peter said, Ronnie went, I wouldn't have let you go. He said, because I would have kept you. He said, but is the manager and he picks out who comes and who goes. And then he let me go from there. And then I was struggling. I needed a £2,000 or £3,000 to buy a house in Edmonton. And I had nowhere to go. I went to Enfield and we played a friendly. We won 6-0. I scored 3. And the chairman said to me, come and sign. And I needed this money. But between me and you, 2 of the players didn't like me. So they said to the manager, no, don't sign him. So I got a phone call on the Saturday night from Roy Dwight.
Yeah.
And I said to Roy Dwight, I said, Roy, I'm in trouble. I said, I'm buying a house and I need certain amount of money. And he said to me, I'll see the chairman. And I know it's backhanders and that, but he got the money for me so that I could buy the house in Edmonton. And do you know what? In 6 months, we got to the 4th round of the FA Cup, and the chairman said it was the best move he's ever done. He used to own 3 shoe shops in Tooting, but he gave me the money and the club made £65,000. And he said, money well spent, Ron. So I said, yeah. And I played there for 2 years.
Yeah. Now let's get into this. Roy Dwight, of course, who famously broke his leg in the cup final.
That's right.
Cousin of Elton John. Another big name manager, if you like. You kind of get attracted to these, or they attract themselves to you, don't you? I mean, there are quite a run of them there. Ron Atkinson, Dave Mackay, Brian Clough, and now Roy Dwight.
Yeah, I've had a few, haven't I?
You've had a few, yeah. Now, this is going to be painful, the next bit. So we have to talk about it. Tooting and Mitcham in the FA Cup against Swindon. Now, you might well know that Swindon's recent record in cup competitions is, how can I put this politely, wretched. Now, in those days, Swindon used to be quite a cup team, didn't they? But when you were drawn against Swindon in that third round, what did you think?
I just felt brilliant because when I got to the ground, I see the pitch, and that's why I thought we got a chance, because it was so heavy. The pitch was heavy, it was mud, and Tootingham Mitcham's pitch never ever drained. It was always heavy and thick mud. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. And I really fancied us that night against Swindon.
So Swindon go 2-up, and it's quite a comfortable 2-0. I think they were 2-up after about 6 minutes at the county ground.
That's right.
And it looked as though Swindon were going to cruise through to the next round, no problem at all. And then Ron Howell kind of gets involved and drives them forward. And my oh my, you get back to 2-2. So tell us how that worked.
That was to be honest, we really played well at Swindon. We really played well, and we had a couple of good chances to win it. To be honest, even though when we was 2-0 down, we come back and we had a couple of chances to win it, but we took you back to our place, and well. You know what happened there.
I do know what happened there. I actually, if I remember, didn't you hit the crossbar in the last minute or something at Swindon?
That's right.
Yeah, I seem to remember that it got to that point where Swindon were gone. You just, I remember that. Right, a couple of messages here. This is from Rob. Glenn and Don, Glenn Hoddle, of course, a Barnet boy. Later on, you went to Barnet. Two of the most graceful players you could ever watch. A privilege to watch them, and I think you would probably agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes, Glenn Hoddle. Glenn Hoddle is the finest passer of a ball I've seen for the last 30 years, because he was he could spin it, bring it back. He's unbelievable. Glenn Hoddle was my idol. Him and John White. Him and the Ghost, they was the best two players, midfield players I've ever seen. And Johnny Haynes was a good player, because I played against Johnny Haynes when I was at Millwall, and Johnny Haynes was coming to the end, but another great passer of the ball. You can't find them now. All they do now, they pass it square back. Like Price, for me, every time he plays more balls square and more balls back than any player I've ever seen. And he's worth £100 million. As it, I can't believe it when the ball's in the final third and then they go bump back to the goalkeeper. It's crazy. Like, the only person who really plays good football is Pep. Man City, they play it across the back, play it forward, and then they get in good positions. This is why. And when I was a kid playing for school team, you had 20 players within 20, 30 yards of each other. And now you watch it on the telly, you see your Premier sides are all pushed up together, and there's 20 players in about 50 yards. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I just think when we was playing, we had talent, but now I think there's so many players that half of them can't even kick with their left foot. This is what annoys me.
See, people talk about long ball football, but Glenn Hoddle played long ball football. He just played 60-yard passes with incredible accuracy.
It went straight to the player. That's what it is with Glenn. It went straight to the player. Yeah. I see him hit a ball one day from right back to outside left, 60 yards, and it went right on his toe.
Yeah.
And that's what you call class, bosh. Yeah. And I love class. And he used to do the same as me. I used to like to take the mick and put it through their legs. But I'll nutmeg them, and you get a bosh or an elbow. It's the game. The game ain't the same now. I can remember playing against Stan Bowles at QPR. And now I'm having a little set to with Terry Venables. So Stan Bowles comes up and he goes, "Wait, leave it out." So I went, "Leave it out?" I went, "What's it got to do with you, Stan?" He went, nothing. All of a sudden, he went down the end. Bang, bang, bang. 3 goals in 20 minutes. He come up to me. He hit me on the top of the head and he went, "Oi, your goalkeeper's got backache." He bending down, picking the ball out of the net. But see, that's a character. I laughed and Venables was laughing. But that was years ago. And that was Millwall against QPR. And Bowlesy took the mick, and he hit me on the head. And I went, "Who are you hitting on the head?" And he went, "Your goalkeeper's got backache." See, there's no characters now. You like the only one who tries to put a bit of character is the one who plays for Man City, Grealish. Is a player that's got a bit of swagger. But there ain't many stuff like that.
Do you think that's the way? I mean, I'm not saying that coaching is bad, but do you think people could be overcoached these days?
Do you know what
almost comes out of it? Do
you know what? I tell you what. I honestly think the coaching nowadays. I don't think enough coaches in this country have the kids at 9, 10, 11 with a ball all the time. When I coached the first person when I done my badge at Arsenal with Don Howell. I went when England won the World Cup. Bobby Moore, Alf Ramsey and Harry Redknapp. And I done the under-9s. And all I done, all with a ball. Control, pass. And Harry Redknapp and Bobby Moore, it was their calls. They used to go down the betting shop all afternoon. And I'll come back one day and I said, "Here, Harry, how comes you and Bobby Moore are always down the betting shop?" He went, "This is our calls." There was 80 kids there, all paying £40 each in Snaresbrook. And he gave me a little cup like that, Coach of the Week. I said, "I'd rather have a score or 20 quid instead of a little cup." And I've done the babies and I've coached. That's the only way I coach. Everything's with a ball because that's what you play with.
Yeah.
And like some of these teams now, they play the long ball and it's like bosh, corner flags, chase it. And there's so many teams in the 2nd and 3rd division. They're all doing it. Like the geezer who's manager of Rotherham. Is it Steve something?
Steve Evans.
Yeah, Steve Evans. He loves the long punt. Bosh, get it up there. But I just think I coach my grandchildren and it's all with a ball because that's what you play with and that's the main thing.
So the
I'm getting a sore throat now. I'm talking too much.
It's great. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're talking about an era here where many of us remember it very well, and it takes you way back into. I mean, we're talking. I'm sad to say about this, Ronnie, 50 years ago, unbelievably enough. I mean, what about that replay then? I mean, you unfortunately and sadly and really annoyingly, you happened to beat Swindon. What did you feel like when you did that?
I'll tell you what, it was electric. We went into the dressing room. Roy Dwight said to me, "Here," and he gave me the biggest cigar you've ever seen. And he said, "Here, Halsey, cigar." And I put it in my mouth and he gave one to Johnny Dunn, who used to play for Chelsea, the goalie. John Dunn, remember him?
Yeah.
He was in goal for Tooting. And me and him sat there smoking a cigar in the dressing room. And I looked at all the others and I went, "Put that out, Halsey, put that out." But we just had a cigar because it was a great result, really, to beat Swindon at our place, Tooting. Like, especially, as you say, after getting a 2-2. We was 2-0 down in 6 minutes. So that's what it's all about.
Incredible. The magic of the FA Cup. I mean, you got there with Enfield, I think, as well, didn't you, to the 4th round of the FA Cup? I mean, what do you think about teams these days who don't take it seriously? Because if you draw, I was going to say if Swindon get to the 3rd round of the FA Cup, but it's been a long time. If you get to the 3rd round of the FA Cup and you pick out a Man United and Arsenal or Tottenham, the magic of it a few years ago was you saw their first team. I remember seeing Tottenham at Swindon with Ardiles, Hoddle, Villa, all these people. Now you're more than likely to get the under-21s, aren't you? So what do you think about the way the big teams take it?
I honestly think now is too many games. I'm not backing the players for this, but when we used to play, it was 40 games in 8 months. Now it's 70. And I know they're getting a fortune in money, but 70 games is enough to wear you out. Like all these European Cup games and that, they're playing Saturdays, Tuesdays, or Saturdays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Thursdays. It does take it out of players. It does. And that's the only thing I can honestly say. But when we played, it was 42 games a year, and that was over 8 months, 7 or 8 months. And you didn't mind that. We used to play Saturdays, possibly the following Saturday, or once in midweek if you was behind in the games. But no, I think they're playing too many games. It's all about
surely, if you're playing for Tooting and Mitcham, if you're playing for Enfield, and you've got a dream of playing the big teams, haven't you? In the FA Cup, that's what you dream of, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we got at Enfield, we got to the 4th round of the FA Cup, and we went out to Bradford, 2-0 at Bradford. But we should have beat Bradford. We hit the post, we hit the bar. And we would have been in the 5th round if we'd have won that game. And we had a couple of players missing in that game. But the best game that I enjoyed most, not the Swindon one, but when we played Barnsley at White Hart Lane. I went out on the pitch at 6:15 to try me boots, and I walked in the dressing room and I said, "There's not going to be a big crowd today." And all the boys went, "Don't be silly." About 7,000 or 8,000. Well, when we walked out, Barnsley was in red, we was in white, and we walked out on the pitch and there was 36,000.
Wow.
And that was only 3 sides. The main road, it was all knocked down. The stand was knocked down, and there was 3 sides. And my brother worked at the Spurs then, but there was 36,000 there. And we got beat 2-0. And I had to mark the best player on the field, Ronnie Glavin.
Scottish
International.
Yeah.
Scottish International. And he tore me apart. And he come up and he went to me, shook me hands. He said, "I told you I'll be fit for the return." I said, "Yeah, I know that." And they done us 2-0. So
it's amazing to bring all these memories back. I mean, we've been asked this question. Your thoughts on Les Allen, who of course played for QPR famously in that League Cup final against West Brom, if I remember rightly, when QPR won the League Cup 2 years before Swindon did as a 3rd division team. What was he like as a coach and a manager?
He was a good manager, Les. He was a gentleman, and Clive, his son, Clive was the same. They was all nice people, but nice people don't make great managers, do they? Really?
No, we got relegated under Les, didn't we?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got relegated.
Yeah. Clive, I think, was born in Swindon. I think he's a Swindonian, isn't he? Clive Allen?
Yeah. You going back. My son was born there and all. So the two of them.
We'll claim them, definitely. Right, so into non-league then, with Enfield and the likes of Dagenham, Barnet, Walthamstow Avenue. Walthamstow Avenue. Now, did you play in the same place as the Dog Track? Was that the same stadium?
No, that's the Walthamstow Dogs is about a mile from there.
Right.
But we used to play for Walthamstow Avenue and then go straight to the Dogs. and Charlie Chan's afterwards to have a few beers.
Right. You see, that's another thing now. You see, you mentioned the cigars and you mentioned the beers there. That doesn't happen anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that they should go out drinking and all that kind of thing, but did it actually enhance team spirit for you?
Really? I think team spirit is all about what the captain says. And at Tooting and Mitcham, we had a great captain in Billy Smith. He died last year of Alzheimer's, but he was a legend. he wouldn't let any of our players, someone done our players, he would go and do them. He was a great player, hard as nails, and like he just used to say, leave him alone, I'll do him, I'll sort him out. But he didn't break their legs or nothing, but he just went up there, and when he went into a tackle, they knew they'd been tackled. Bit like Dave McKay, really, but non-league, you know. And Billy was a legend, and we had a great side there at Tooting.
Can I show you that? You see that? Hang on. It's Tooting and Mitcham. I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to get the light on it. It's the programme for Tooting and Mitcham versus Swindon Town. There you go. Look.
Have you still got it?
Well, we've got it in the museum collection.
Could you send us a photo?
We'll do what we can do. Yeah, we'll
Tim's
send
got
you.
it.
Oh,
Tim's
you got it. Yeah, so there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I love about these things are the adverts, you know, die casters, trimmers, and bandsawers, high piecework earnings, training given, good canteen facilities, HJ Mabry and Co. Limited. I wonder if they're still there. Fridge and Hoover repairs, all that kind of stuff. And I love that's the best thing about programs like that. It keeps you in touch with social history from that era, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've actually got a program indoors in my scrapbook when we played Chelsea, and Peter Osgood was centre forward for Chelsea, and I was centre forward for Millwall in the FA Youth Cup.
Wow.
Peter Houseman, he was on the wing, and they played 40,000 for a boy named George Luke, Scottish international, and I'll never forget that. And we beat them 3-2 at Stamford Bridge. So that didn't go down well for Aussie.
Right. I'm gonna hang on a minute. Let's do this. Right. This is the Tooting and Mitcham team from that night. Here we go. John Dunn, Alan Barraclough, Billy Smith, yeah, Steve Grubb, Bobby Green, Ron Howell, Derek Casey, Trevor Ford, Dave Juneman, Nicky Glover, Alan Ives, and Keith Hyland was the substitute.
That's right. But you see the front three. Who you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
Nicky Glover, Alan Ives, and Dave Juneman. They was 3 players that was all quick, and all I used to do in midfield is just put them in down the sides of each of the defenders. And as I say, Dave Juneman got 16 penalties in one season because they just used to go bump down, they went penalty, and they was quick as lightning, and it was easy for me just to find them. So it's amazing.
Well, this is the Swindon team from that night, right? Jim Barron in goal, great goalkeeper. Yeah. John McLaughlin, John Trollope, Kenny Stroud, Frank. And you've got a story about Kenny Stroud in a minute. Frank Burrows, John Emanuel, David Moss, the great Will Dixon, if I might put it like that, Peter Eastoe, Joe Butler, Trevor Anderson, and the sub was Tommy Jenkins. Now, you and Stroudy, Kenny Stroud, you had a bit of a mix-up, didn't you?
Yes, he went straight through me. He went straight through me. He hit me so hard, I wondered what was happening. He shouted, "Get up, Halsey, you can have some more." That's what he said. But
he always came across as a bit of a cultured player, Kenny Stroud, but he had a hard side to him.
He was a quiet lad, but once he tackled you, you knew you'd been tackled. So it's unbelievable.
Fabulous. What was life like at Dagenham, Barnet, Walthamstow Avenue? What was life like in those days then? I mean, Barnet, well, we'll mention Barry Fry, but we'll mention him without using certain words, if that's all right with you. Yeah. How was he at Barnet?
I was at Barnet for a year. I was player coach for a year. And then I went to Dagenham with Ted Hardy, who was a good manager, non-league manager. And Barry Fry, a few of the lads said that I should have took the manager's job and he should have went upstairs, but that didn't go down too well. That didn't go down too well with Barry Fry, so just shows you. But I've had a good, long and successful career from 15 to 35. I finished playing, so I enjoyed every moment of it. So all I've got to do now is get the grandchildren being pro footballers.
That would be good, wouldn't it? And then, of course, when you come out of football, it's not like these days where, you know, your top players are on massive contracts. So really and truthfully, they don't have to work afterwards. But, you know, in those days, of course, you had to find a job once you're out of football, didn't you?
Well, that's what I've done. I was a very lucky person because my brother said to me when I was 35 or 32, he said, "What are you going to do for the rest of your life? You can't play football." So I said, "No." He went, "I've got a job for you in London as a messenger." And I went, "Yeah." And then I went for the interview. And as soon as I got in the door, the head messenger went to me, "You can't play football no more. You can't train. You have got to do the messenger's job." I walked out, my brother was outside, and I said to my brother, I wanted to punch him right on the nose. I said, so he went to me, "They're the greatest jobs ever." And you know what? I went there, I got the job on the Monday, and it's the best job. I can honestly say I loved going to work. I used to be in the gym every dinner time. I had easy jobs, and I was there 35 years.
Wow.
I finished at 70, and I had a great pension. So my brother done the right thing for me.
He did right by you. Yeah.
Digging roads. Digging roads or...
I mean, so this was literally taking letters and messages round to the offices. Is that what it was?
Yeah, just taking them to the Bank of England. Once I had £1 million check and I was going home and I put it in the wrong bank. And I was sitting on the train at Hackney Downs, and they went, "You better get off that train." So I said, "Why is that?" He went, "You've just put £1 million in at the wrong bank. You've got 45 minutes to get to the bank and put it in the other bank." Well, sweat was dripping off of me. I ran down Bishopsgate, got the check, got it in with 2 minutes to spare. So they would have sacked me for that. But they didn't, and it's just, but it was I enjoyed 35 years working in that bank.
You see, it seems to me, Ronnie, talking to you, you enjoyed your life.
Yes.
There are no regrets in it.
No regrets at all. None at all. Because as Trevor Brookings said to me when I went to Fenchurch Street to get a book signed, and a boy who was in the office, he said to me, "You don't know Trevor Brookings." I said, "Pardon?" And he'd only just started. So I said, "Don't I?" He said, "I'll bet you a tenner." So he got a tenner out of his pocket. I put a tenner there, and all the messengers were laughing. We walked into the shop at Fenchurch Street. Trevor's signing them. And then all of a sudden, when it was my turn, he was standing behind me. Trevor got up. "Hello, Ron," shook my hands. And the kid went, "I've just lost a tenner." And he went, "I just lost a tenner." But I'll give him the tenner back anyway. But it just shows you, though. But I used to like Trevor. He was a gentleman. But me and the other fella never got on. Tony Curry. He was at Watford. Me and Tony Curry never got on. And I never forget it. He spat in my face once.
Oh, dear.
And I could never do that. And he spat in my face, so I could never do that. And but Trevor was a gentleman, and it's unbelievable.
It strikes me that in the 70s it was a very hard game. I mean, I go to a sporting memories group every Thursday morning, and they recently showed the Chelsea Leeds replay, FA Cup replay, which was probably one of the most brutal games of football that there ever was. I mean, it was hard, but was there any malice in the game in those days, would you say, or was it just a hard game of football?
They was just hard men. And I can remember when I was 17, after my debut, I was playing at Bury on the Tuesday, and who am I playing against? Bobby Collins. You remember him, the little fella from Leeds?
Yeah.
And Bury, he was playing for Bury, and we was going into a 50-50, and I knew what he was going to do. And Eamon Dunphy I went for the 50-50, but I see what he was going to do, and I just pulled my leg away, and he went set of 6 right through me, tore up a big mud patch like that. And Eamon Dunphy ran over and called him a Scottish something, and never forget that. And Bobby Collins would have broke my leg there, literally snapped it. But I could see what he was going to do, because he was just after anybody. And I pulled the leg away. Luckily, I did.
Did you have many injuries in your career?
No, I've got a new kneecap, though. I've had a new kneecap. I've retired at 65, and I had it done by a surgeon who's the best surgeon ever, because I've never had no pain. I've got a metal knee, and it's absolutely superb.
And you've been involved in coaching, but do you have anything to do with football at all now?
No, not now. Not now. I'm 75 now, and I've retired. And I like to go and see my grandson play, but I'm a very, very critical. So she don't like me going when I watch it. Anyway, so it's been lovely talking to you.
Well, it's been fantastic talking to you. And don't forget, of course, you are welcome to come to the county ground
I'll
at
tell
any
you,
time.
truthfully, Kimmy's sitting here and she wants to bring her son, and I want to come with my girlfriend, and it'd be lovely to come and see, just to come and see the ground again and have a cup of tea. And
yeah, there is one stipulation though, Ron, because I do interviews on the pitch before games, and unfortunately, you might have to come down and do one of those with me. Is that all right?
I don't mind doing an interview.
Lovely.
But I hope I ain't got no bailiffs out there. Hey, someone who wants my money. Anyway,
is there anybody in the Stratton St Margaret area that you need to be?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, couple of girls there. Anyway,
before we go, Ronnie, don't run off. We'll just say goodbye to you, and we'll see you just after the show finishes, and we can have a chat about that. But we've just sat there and listened. Just wonderful, wonderful memories tonight, Ronnie. I mean, I went to that Tooting game as the home game, and I thought it was we were cakewalking, and then you got the 2 goals at the end. And I'll never forget the replay actually made the 9 o'clock news that night, the BBC 9 o'clock news. So
do you know why? The chairman, I ran off and I said something to the Swindon chairman. I didn't swear or nothing, but I just said, and I put my arms up like that. And he looked at me and he didn't say a word. So,
what do you think about players that don't celebrate now against their former team?
Well, I can't believe the celebration. We used to score like, I used to put one hand up in the air like a goal. That was it. But now some of them doing this and
no.
that.
But if you'd scored against Swindon now, right, and for Tooting, players don't celebrate against their former team.
No, not normally. No. And you notice I didn't celebrate when we scored at Tooting. I didn't celebrate. The only time I celebrate is when I come off the pitch. That was the only time.
Fantastic. All right. Well, many, many thanks, Ronnie. Like I say,
no problem.
Don't run
Andy
off.
And Vic, it's been nice talking to you. And it's
stay right there. We'll say goodbye in a minute.
Stay right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right. I've got me.